We are taught that the best way to handle a conflict is to seek a rational, win-win compromise. We assume logic brings both sides to an agreement. But in high-stakes environments, relying on logic to force a middle ground routinely sets you up to fail. The FBI learned this the hard way. Following the failure of logic-based bargaining during the 1993 siege in Waco, Texas, the Bureau realized they had to completely abandon rational problem-solving tactics. Around the same time, behavioral economists like Daniel Kahneman were discovering the psychological reason for this failure. Humans are irrational actors. We are driven by a System 1 brain, a fast, instinctive, and highly emotional method of processing information that dictates our decisions before logic ever kicks in. Whether you are trying to free a hostage or secure a 20% bump in your starting salary, bringing a spreadsheet to an emotional fight guarantees you will lose. Stop treating the other side like a logical machine and learn to navigate their emotional undercurrents. The primary tool for accessing those feelings is called tactical empathy. This is the practice of actively listening and vocalizing the other person's perspective back to them. When they hear their own worldview articulated, their psychological guard drops. The easiest way to trigger this is through mirroring. You simply repeat the last 3 words of your counterpart's sentence, and you do it using the deep, calm, downward inflecting tone of a late-night FM DJ. This tone signals complete safety, prompting them to keep talking and elaborate on their position. Once they are talking, you deploy an accusation audit. You preemptively list every possible complaint they could have about you or your proposal, and say those things out loud. And by voicing their worst fears directly, you strip those negative emotions of their power to attack you. Tactical empathy is separate from agreeing with the other person. It is a calculated weapon used to create enough psychological security that your counterpart willingly exposes their actual motives. Traditional negotiation advice trains us to relentlessly chase the word yes, but pushing for a yes actually traps people. It makes them feel cornered and defensive. Often, they will give you a counterfeit yes just to end the pressure and make you go away. The real negotiation begins when you give them the right to say no. Inviting a no grants the other side a sense of autonomy. It makes them feel protected, which causes their conversational barriers to immediately collapse. This diagram shows the danger of the phrase, "you're right." It is a polite dismissal designed to end the conversation. Your actual goal is to summarize their situation perfectly so they say, "that's right." That phrase signals they feel completely understood, making actual behavioral change possible. By deliberately giving your counterpart the permission to reject you, you bypass their defense mechanisms. Once those protective layers are peeled away, you can start guiding the choices they make. The most common failure state in bargaining is attempting to split the difference. Meeting halfway satisfies neither side and routinely results in an irrational, heavily compromised deal for both parties. Avoid compromise using calibrated questions. Queries starting with how or what force the other side to expend mental energy solving your problem. When facing an unrealistic demand, ask, "How am I supposed to do that?" This makes them examine their own logistical impossibilities. This creates the illusion of control. Because they are the ones providing the answers, they feel completely in charge of the conversation. In reality, you are the one dictating the boundaries of what is possible. A verbal agreement is useless without a specific, mechanical plan for implementation. In the hostage negotiation world, they have a saying, "Yes is nothing without how." To test if an agreement will hold, you use the rule of 3. You get the other side to reaffirm their commitment 3 separate times in the same conversation. You do this by getting the initial agreement, summarizing their position using labels until they say, "that's right," and then asking a calibrated how question about the execution. While doing this, you apply the 7-38-55 rule. Communication is 7% words, 38% tone of voice, and 55% body language. If their tone or physical posture contradicts their words, you have spotted a hidden deal killer. They are either lying or deeply uncomfortable with the agreement. Securing the initial yes is merely the halfway point. Forcing the other party to explain the exact mechanics of execution is what locks the deal in place and prevents them from backing out later. When you finally reach the haggling phase, this gauge illustrates the Ackerman system in action. This is a specific process of making decreasing percentage offers, starting at 65% of your target, then 85, 95, and finally 100%. This creates the psychological illusion that your counterpart is squeezing every last drop of value out of you. On that final offer, you use a highly precise, non-round number, like $37,893. Precision implies calculation. It signals to the other side that you have mathematically hit your absolute limit. Beyond the haggling is the ultimate variable, the black swan. In every single negotiation, there are 3 to 5 hidden pieces of information. If you uncover them, the entire power dynamic flips in your favor. Finding a black swan requires you to abandon your own assumptions. You have to aggressively interrogate the unknown by listening to the subtext and probing into your counterpart's worldview, their hidden desires, constraints, and the internal rules they obey. The situation is the actual adversary. By treating the person across the table as your partner and asking the right questions, you transform conflict into collaborative execution.